Hey, it's Joe, and welcome back to Humanfluence, where we explore the profound, the hidden, and the transformative. Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating and cosmic perspectives on the very fabric of governance. Not human governments, but a solar government. Drawing from the timeless wisdom of Manly P. Hall, this lecture reveals how the sun is not merely a source of energy, but the governing force behind the entire solar system. This isn't about solar flares or astronomy as we know it. This is about the metaphysical laws encoded within sunlight itself. Laws that shape not just the planets, but life, consciousness, and even the hidden spiritual hierarchies that govern our reality. We'll uncover how Hall ties ancient traditions, esoteric philosophies, and cosmic order into a unified vision where the sun acts as the central logos, radiating laws, patterns, and life itself. We'll explore the connection between planetary energies, the human soul, and the divine plan orchestrated through the sun's light. Prepare to reimagine what it means to live within a solar system. This isn't just science, it's a cosmic symphony where every ray of light carries the blueprints of divine purpose. So let's ascend into the luminous insights of solar government. Manly P. Hall's lecture on solar government. All governments within a solar system originate in the sun, which is not only the source of energy, but because it is the source of energy, and because energy carries within itself the laws of all emanations as an integral part of its own structure, the whole plan and fabric of the solar system is sustained by the law and principle governing energy, which comes from the sun. This energy is loaded not only with vital, but with mental, emotional, and psychic potentialities. Wherever a ray of light strikes, it releases not only form and pattern and line, it releases through these forms patterns and lines, the laws locked within them. Every species, type, and kind has its own inflexible laws. The universe is a great mechanism of law, and to none of the laws can there be exceptions. To none of them can there be violations. They are inevitable, immutable, and eternal. And these laws, by their absolute surety, become a great subjective power for good and strength within the consciousness of the individual who discovers them. He not only realizes these laws are sustaining him, that he is indestructible by virtue of his participation in them, but at the same time these laws are sustaining all other life and moving it to ends which these laws have inherent within themselves. So we can say that all laws are good and all life comes from the sun. The sun itself is a magnificent complex of power. Paracelsus pointed out there are three suns in various relationships to each other. Of these three, only one is visible to our external sensory perceptions. If we were looking at it with clairvoyant vision, we would see one of its other bodies. In the same way, by focusing the attention of the consciousness clairvoyantly upon a human being, we see the various divisions of his aura, according to the plane or level from which our clairvoyance is pointed. So, if we go inwardly according to the development of our extrasensory perceptions and study with our spiritualized faculties the structure of the sun, we perceive always a great luminous field, but we will see various parts of it, various levels and planes of its energy, according to the quality of the perceptions with which we approach it. As we go higher in our examination of it, the sun ceases to be the kind of light we know and changes from its glorious gold color to a strange midnight blue, resembling the sun in eclipse. We know the great spiritualized field of this luminary is really dark light, a mysterious spiritualized power which, striking certain material levels of atomic structure, bursts forth in the radiance of light. But not light in its own essence and substance, because light only becomes light when conditioned by a certain medium, ratio of relationship to certain physical substances. It is from this one part of the sun which the supreme ruler of all the worlds that are within the aura of its energy comes the laws by which all planets are governed, comes the inevitable edicts, the eternal powers. The sun god is the power in whom we live, move, and have our being. The sun is the being whose tabernacle is eternal in the heavens. The sun is the lord of the house, and the sun is the lord of the great temple of the solar system. And it is the high priest, the master of the sacrament. It is the sun who is the high priest, robed in blue and gold, the supreme magi. The sun is the lord of all in the Phrygian mysteries. In Revelations, it is the master who walked among the candlesticks. The sun is the master of the lodge, master of the secret school. In the sun and its power, and in the great spiritualized intelligence that abides in the sun, which is the absolute governor of the entire solar bodies within this being, are the modes of realization and expression of consciousness, the qualities of energy, the channels of thought, the cycles of impulse, and all the mysterious energized fields by which life is sustained and perfected. Now, according to the esoteric tradition, the Earth was not thrown off the sun, as was the common opinion in the nebulae hypothesis. Science has begun to reject that hypothesis after clinging to it for many years. It is now believed that originally the body of the sun extended to the circumference of the solar system, and that gradually through uncounted millenniums of cooling and solidifying, the sun retired by shrinkage process until it reached its present proportion, leaving behind it certain islands of energy, which became planets, and which continued to revolve and rotate about the central mass. In other words, the planets were left behind in the gradual process of the cooling and condensing of the solar substance. This is according to the esoteric traditions, but it was considered as occurring not only on the physical plane, but as a condensation from the abstract levels of life towards the physical plane. So the planets had their origin in spiritual substances rather than in the condensation of physical gases. The point is, after the solar system came into being, each of the planets became one of the vital organs of this great body, and to each one was appointed a regent or power. According to the Brahminic traditions, the sun's great energy, the supreme power of the solar logos, breaking up on the spectrum of the planetary field, sent one of its energy rays, one of the 7 modes of itself, to abide in each of the planetary structures. These planetary beings are therefore lesser gods, born out of this great God. They are the Elohim of ancient Jewish metaphysics. We find in the Greek philosophy they were the 7 spirits of the Lord that floated upon the surface of the water. They are the ones that moved the deep. They are the ones who formed the abyss into the great candlestick carried within them and lighted the globes of the planets. These 7 deities are called the planetary logi. These mysterious powers of emanation, these 7 from the One, is found in the mythology of all people, where from one supreme deity came forth the 7 gods. These 7 deities, these 7 demiurgos powers, have their abode within the structure of their planet. Now, if you will study the anatomy of man in relationship to his auric fields, you will realize that within the human being, the spiritual ego, that part which endures is located in the heart. And from the heart come 2 extensions of energy, the positive and negative polarities. The positive pole of this principle resides in the brain, where it becomes the basis of thought. The negative pole is located in the sacral ganglia, where it becomes the process of physical generation. And physical generation is divine power on the physical plane. Therefore, this supreme being, which is man's spiritual nature, manifests as an intellectual spiritual power. Then if we study the structure of the earth, we realize beneath the surface of the earth there are many strata, containing various mineral substances, various elements, and finally the core of the great central body of the earth, which is composed of some kind of iron. This the ancients called basic antimony. Not the antimony of modern chemistry, but antimony as the earth element. This is the azoic core, the solid, indestructible core of the earth, part of which was worn down to produce the superphysical strata. The azoic core is the magnetic field, a terrific magnetic power. In the azoic core itself abides the principle that corresponds to the ego. In this case, it is the planetary logos itself. The planetary logos is located in the heart of Earth, and in the same way the spiritual part of man is located in the apex of the left ventricle of the heart. When you study this, you realize this location is qualitative, rather than in terms of physical place. In the relationship of the heart to the spiritual center, it should not be supposed the spirit actually lives in the heart. Rather, it lives in the spiritual center. In the same way, the logos is not located in the azoic core, but is in the magnetic field which corresponds in location to the part of the earth's structure. Now, as surely as the human aura sends forth its 2 polarities to create the mental polarity at the upper end of the spine, and the generative polarity at the lower end of the spine, so surely the planetary God sends forth its 2 polarities along the poles of Earth's axis, and that part which turns upward becomes the intellectual pole of the Earth's magnetic field, extending beyond the physical structure of the Earth to the outer structure of the auric egg of the planet itself. We must visualize the Earth as surrounded by a spectrum of vital energy, surrounding it and extending far out into the outer atmosphere. It is impossible to state it in physical terms because it is a problem in magnetic qualitative distance, but in our problem, if you follow the old Brahminic belief, you must realize the magnetic field of the Earth is 4 times the size of the physical body of the Earth. Therefore, we may consider the magnetic boundaries of the Earth to be a great many hundreds of miles beyond the Earth's physical surface. Now, the magnetic pull of the Earth extends through this magnetic field, as in the case of the human body, where the magnetic pull extends far beyond the physical head and up to the magnetic field, which in man is from 5 to 7 feet above his head. At the point where the magnetic poles of the Earth pass through the outer circumference of the outer magnetic field of the Earth, at the northern extremity of the Earth's magnetic aura, there is a place called by the Hindus Mount Meru. This great mountain is home of the gods, the Olympus of the Greeks, the Asgard of the Scandinavians, the holy city standing upon the mount of Christianity. This great mountain bearing the city of the gods, the Shambhala of the Tibetans. Therefore, the mountain at the northern extremity of the Earth's magnetic field is the abiding place of the intellectual powers of the creating gods who control the planets. Now let us go back to the analogy of the human being, because that analogy is far more or less understandable to us. If we wish to think a thing through very carefully, if we wish to understand any problem about ourselves, make any mental calculations concerning conduct, if we wish in any way to extend ourselves in knowledge or understanding or wisdom, we must accomplish this by means of the mind. We must use the mind through its medium, the brain, which is its physical vehicle of manifestation. Therefore, the mind is really the self-knower, and also the knower of other selves. It is the power in man by which he orients himself, controls his conduct, regulates his action, establishes his standards of morality and ethics, and by which he studies that part of himself, which is beyond the mind. As all intellectual processes must work through the mental structure, so theoretically and actually the purely spiritual, non-intellectual processes work through the heart. In the spirit of the Buddhist statement, as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. But in the management of the human being, the whole personality is under the control of the mind, because its spiritual principle in the heart does not speak. It has nothing to say. It gives no orders, but remains as the source which supplies the physical body with its power and action. It is the same way with the planetary logos. The planetary logos in its spiritual aspect, as located in the heart of Earth, issues no edict, controls nothing, dominates nothing, has no opinions concerning anything, because consciousness in its own substance and nature is without, beyond, and above the sphere of thought and opinion. Therefore, the intellectual processes of the logos are controlled by another superior being, controlled by a mental hierarchy, which functions as its brain and serves as a vehicle for its mind. The mind of the logos is therefore a subtle and sensitive series of connections united to the brain of the logos. Now, in the case of the brain of the logos, it is no longer composed, as our brain is, of cells within a structure. In the administration of the world, the brain of the logos is composed of a group of beings who are the sensitive field for the manifestation of the thought of the world. Therefore, the logos in its mental aspect sends the thoughts, and the servants of the great Lord, constituting the great sovereign body of government, the great White Lodge, is the brain of the planetary logos, through which the mind or thought impulses of the logos of the world are distributed through all forms of life, not only human, but throughout all forms of living things within the structure of the planet itself. As we begin to see this emerge, we can begin to understand why in the ancient mystery temples no images were placed in the north, no doors were placed in the north, and in the Masonic Lodge there are no doors in the north. This is not because the north is home of darkness, as is now popularly believed, but because the north is the land of that which cannot be symbolized or imaged without impious consequences. The north is the abode of the old gods, who were the lords of the world. In the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, the symbol of the great temple was a half circle with a banner on a long pole, inclined to the inclination of the earth's axis. That was the symbol of the abode of the gods, the house of the immortals.